sabe, yo no lo sé, Dios mío. Lo que yo sé, Señor, es que el enemigo no le gusta lo que estamos haciendo, Señor. No le gusta cuando familias se sientan juntos a adorarte a ti, Señor, y a leer tu palabra, Señor. El enemigo está bien disgustado, Señor, de lo que está pasando en este momento en nuestra casa, Señor. Nos tenido obstáculos, Dios mío. Dios mío, tú sabes cómo me he sentido, Señor. Y no creo que es coincidencia de cómo me he sentido, porque yo sé que el enemigo no está bien disgustado, Dios, Señor. Gracias, Señor, por todo, Señor. Gracias por esta semana. Gracias por me diste una casa, Señor, que yo pueda hacer esto acá, Señor. Gracias por David y su familia, Señor, porque te aman, Señor, porque están buscando más de ti, Dios mío. Pues sus hijos, Señor, están en la palabra de Dios mío. Gracias por mis hijos, Dios mío, porque están ahí, Dios mío, siempre están y te aman tanto, Señor. Mi esposa, Señor, que me respalda, Señor. Yo la respaldo a ella, Dios mío. Gracias, Señor, porque nos diste una familia, Señor, que podemos estar juntos, Señor. No solamente nosotros mismos, pero con David y Navinia, Señor. Que mío, que podamos estar aquí todas las semanas, Señor, enfrente de ti, Dios mío, a tus pies, buscando más de ti. Gracias por todo, Señor. Y te pido, Señor, que nos bendigas, Dios mío. Que nos des oídos para escuchar, Señor. Corazones abiertos para recibir tu palabra, Dios mío. Que todo te doy gracias, mi nombre que estamos en sus amén. Today we're going to talk about Daniel 3. Just a quick intro. I believe that the devil's extremely upset. I have never, ever been as tired as I am now. I was told Lord this morning. Yesterday, went out yesterday. I haven't been. I know it's a small sermon for us here and whoever listens online, but I have never been this tired. Right now, as I'm talking to you, I'm falling asleep. You know, it's not like I'm getting less sleep than before. It's getting the same thing. But something is not letting me have it's not letting me get through the day. You know, it's not normal. Never felt like this before. And I firmly believe that the enemy's not happy. He's not happy with what we're doing. He's not happy with what we're about to do. He's not happy with what's happening. He's not happy about David's life. You know, that he's looking for you versus he's looking for the world. He's not happy that Davina's here today versus out with her friends. Well, no, she hasn't. You know? They're not happy. The devil's not happy because he knows that if families stay together in his name, we're unstoppable. Now, I'm not saying we're going to change the world. Maybe we are, but, you know, definitely, you know, while this is two less families that are going to be part of this world. He's very upset. You know, keep us in your prayers. I mean, I don't know what tomorrow has for all of us. I don't know what the future is for our ministry. I really don't know. All I know is that we're doing exactly what God wants us to do at this moment. In November 19th of 2017, we're doing what He wants us to do. So what's gonna bring November 20th, I have no idea. But we're patiently waiting to see what God wants us to do. Mm-hmm. So in the meantime, we know the enemy's upset. Amen. He's not gonna win. He tried several things in the last few months so that this didn't happen. So that this is not happening today. He can't win. It's not gonna win. So keep us in prayer. Keep us always. As you go through the day, go through the week, you pray for us. Right now we're calling ourselves the House of Restoration. I think a lot has to do with what happened with that flood in my house. I think it is a place of restoration, not only for lives, friendships, for your soul, spiritual life, you know, for friendships. So I mean, God gave us a beautiful home. God gave us a beautiful home that we can share with others. So okay, our house is always welcome. Anybody wants to come in, share the word. You know, have some coffee, have a small barbecue. Our house is always welcome. You know, God gave us His home for a reason. So it's a slight introduction for today. We're gonna start in Daniel 3, and I'll say it in Spanish. Empezamos en Daniel 3. La semana pasada hablamos de Daniel, lo que él pasó de sus amigos, como los mandaron como fueron a Babilonia. Y también la semana pasada hablamos como Daniel interpretó el sueño del faraón, el sueño de rey Nabucodonosor. Esta semana vamos a hablar de Daniel 3. ¿Alguien se acuerda que es Daniel 3? Daniel 3 es hablando de Shadrach, Meshach y Abednego, lo que pasó ahí, ¿no? y que ellos fueron echados por el rey Nabucodonosor al furnace. ¿Cómo se dice furnace?
El horno.
El horno. Y hemos escuchado esta historia muchas veces, la hemos escuchado cuando éramos chiquitos, la hemos escuchado cuando éramos, ¿sabes?, los domingos. Y yo creo que esta historia se ha convertido un poquito como si fuera una historia de niños, una historia que hemos escuchado de muy pequeño, una historia de Sunday School. A veces mucha gente piensa, ¿sabes?, que es una historia tan fantástica que debe ser un cuento de hadas. No creo que es verdad. Y eso es lo que se ha convertido esta historia, como Noé, la historia de Jonás. No, que 3 muchachos pasó, Dios los salvó, que sí. Pues realmente no es así, una historia mucho más profunda de eso. Lo que pasaron estos muchachos fue una cosa increíble. Y yo creo que hoy yo quiero hablar de eso, quiero hablar de cómo esta historia realmente no es tan básica como pensábamos, como hemos pensado. Desde que éramos chiquitos hemos pensado que una historia muy básica, pero realmente que no es. Oh, in English?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So they were talking about Daniel 3. Daniel 3 is the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Daniel's friends, they were taken to Babylon with Daniel. They were there with him when he interpreted the dreams. And by this point, they have been promoted into being leaders of Babylon. Daniel was a leader of Babylon. He was a ruler of Babylon, actually. And King Nebuchadnezzar was the king. And the 3 friends, they were actually they were leaders within the community. They were high-ranking officers of Babylon. And today we want to challenge your perspective on what the story of the fire furnace is. We have been listening to the story since we were kids. I've listened to the story 1,000 times. I've done crossword puzzles. I have done word searches. I've done many things over the last 36 years with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and about the fire furnace. It's always been like a child's story. And I think a lot of us are put in the same category as Jonah and the whale, and Noah, and all these different stories from the story of Ruth. And these are different stories that we learn as kids. And I believe, and I want to challenge you today to look at the story of the fire furnace, not as a story of our childhood, not as a story of just us sitting here, of you listening to when you were 8 years old. It's such a fantastical story. A lot of people think it's a fairy tale. A lot of people think, no way, that didn't happen. Really, a lot of people, same category. A lot of people don't think that Jonah the whale was actually real. It was actually a fairy tale. So this puts it in the same category as that it is one of those fantastical stories that are in the Bible. That unless you look at it with your spiritual heart, you're not going to believe something like this could be real. Because in reality, what happened to them, it's unbelievable. So we all know what the story is, most of us do. So I challenge you today. Look at it from different perspective. Look at it with different set of eyes. Because it's not what you and I are used to. I think it goes a little deeper than that. I'll go here only because it's more light. I can actually see a little bit better. Yeah. Let's start down chapter 3. Start actually very, very top. And we start what happened again. We already have a basis of what's happened so far. So far, what's happened so far again, they're to the point to where they're rulers. They're no longer slaves. They still report to the king, but they're no longer slaves. They're ruler. Daniel's a ruler of Babylon, and these guys are leaders of Babylon as well. So you got Nebuchadnezzar, the king, made an image of gold whose height was 60 cubits and width 66 cubits. That's about 6 feet wide, 90 feet high. It's a big, big statue. He set it up in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon, and King Nebuchadnezzar sent word to gather together the satraps, the administrators, the governors, the counselors, the treasurers, the judges, the magistrates, the officials of the provinces, to come to the dedication of the image which King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Okay, he brought all of the rulers he brought all the nations together, the leaders of the nation, all the leaders under him, that reported to him. He brought them all there into the plain of Dura. So the satraps, administrators, governors, councils, and treasurers, and judges, all the officials of the provinces gathered together for the dedication of the image that the king Nebuchadnezzar had set up. And they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then a herald cried aloud, "To you it is commanded," this is coming from the king, of course, All peoples, nations, and languages, that at the time you hear the sound of the horn, flute, harp, lyre, and psaltery, in symphony with all kinds of music, you shall fall down and worship the gold image that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. And whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast immediately into the midst of the burning fire furnace. The king had a statue made that was 90 feet high and 6 feet wide. We don't know what the image of the statue is. We don't know if the image was of him. We don't know if the image was of a deity. We don't know if the image was of a donkey. We don't know what the image was. The scriptures are not specific. The history is not specific. We don't know. We don't know that it's an image that was 90 feet high. It's a giant image. So why don't we know what the image is? I really don't know. All I know is that we know what we need to know. God's very specific. His word is very specific. And I think He's there as a teaching method. He's there for us to identify that image as whatever we want, in a way. And I don't think it's really relevant what the image was. The fact is, it was an image made, and He asked the people to idolize it. You and I can put our own face in that image. You and I can say, that image represents sports. You and I, this represents whatever the world's throwing at us every day that's keeping us from growing in Christ. That's what that image is. I don't think it matters what it was to them. I think it matters what it is to us, and what it represents in our lives. This image also represents a new religion. A new religion in a place where there were multiple religions, where there were multiple gods. He wanted everyone to worship this image at the sound of the trumpet and the sound of music. Go, everybody worship it. So this image represented a new religion or established religion within that time. When He gathered everyone and He commanded everyone to bow down onto to the statue, this was a decree. This was the law. This was something that you couldn't say, if I don't want to do it, I don't want to. You either do it or you die. So this is not something that would have been taken lightly during that time. This is something that would have been again, everyone would be very serious. Again, these are the rulers of that time. So there are no reason to not obey the king. The king said, you bow down during that. And these are the leaders. Again, this is not the masses. He brought the leaders in of that time, the nations of that time, to this place. Which meant that as the leaders did, so did the masses. Again, this is leading by example. You get the leaders to submit, everybody else to submit. Question is, are you willing to die for your beliefs? If you didn't bow down, you got thrown into the furnace. Are you willing to die for your beliefs? Are you willing to stand up for Him? Are you willing to do whatever it takes for Him? The word is saying, bow to me. How are you responding? How are you responding to the world telling you, bow to me or die? What are you going to say? So let's see. Let's keep reading real quick in verse 7. So at that time, when all the people heard the sound of the horn, flute, harp, and lyre, and symphony, with all the kings of music, all the people, nations and languages, fell down and worshipped the gold image which King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. We know exactly how they responded. They were like sheep. They got on their knees, and they praised and they worshipped the image. Nothing you could do. Whatever you say, as long as, I think some of us in this world right now, we're thinking like this. As long as my happy, comfortable life is not disturbed, as long as I can do what I want to do, as long as I can go to Starbucks, no problem. Do whatever you need to do. Take my privacy away. You can go ahead and you want me to submit it to gay propaganda in every show I watch? No problem. As long as I can watch what I need to watch. You want me to submit it to curse words in every single song? No problem. It's okay. No big deal. You know what I mean? As long as I'm popular in school, no problem. As long as I can live my life. Where's the conviction in our spirit that says, where's the conviction in our spirit that stops us from partaking in these things? Again, I'm the big believer, and people who know me know this. I say this a lot. No problem. Let's just get it done, right? I think Mitch, Regina, and everyone knows that's what I say. No problem. Let's do it. But it's not the attitude we should have when it comes to this. You know, what are we willing to tolerate before we say enough is enough? What are we willing to go? What are we willing to do to say enough is enough? Let's keep going. Verse number 9. Therefore, at that time, certain Chaldeans came forward and accused the Jews. They spoke and said to King Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. You, O king, have made a decree that everyone who hears the sound of the horn, flutes, harp, lyre, and psaltery, and symphony, all kinds of music, shall fall down and worship the gold image. Again, here you have the Chaldeans, the astrologers. Well, it's like, hey, remember that Daniel, his friends, were the ones who took their jobs. In a way, they were promoted over them. So they're selling to them, hey, king, hold on a minute. Your leaders who you put in charge, that you were the one who actually put them in some kind of charge, you replaced them with us, you replaced us with them. They're not even doing what you're asking them to do. Again, this is the law. The king made a law that if not followed, really got death sentence. Keep reading a little bit. And whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast into the midst of a burning fire furnace. There are certain Jews whom you have set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not paid due regard to you. They do not serve your gods or worship the gold image which you have set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in rage and fury, gave the command to Shadrach and Abednego. So they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spoke, saying to them, Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the gold image which I have set up? Now if you're ready at the time you hear the horn, flute, harp, lyre, and psaltery, in symphony with all kinds of music, and you fall down and worship the image which I have made, good. But if you do not worship, you shall be cast immediately into the midst of a burning fire furnace. And who is the God who will deliver you from my hands? These three men of God were Daniel's friends. They were promoted to be officers in Babylon. They were leaders of their community, and they were expected to do as the king commanded. I think it is important to know what was happening during that time, because it's going to play a role into how this thing is a very, very important story of the Bible. The king gathered all the kings of all the leaders of every nation. He brought them into Babylon. All the leaders went to one place. Before this, when Daniel 2, we learned that Daniel interpreted a dream. He interpreted for the king. This dream was of a giant statue that was made of four. We know that, right? It was made of four different metals with feet that were made of iron and clay. Okay, so four stable metals. So when actually got down to the bottom of the feet, it was actually unstable, iron and clay. Okay, it's a mixture of iron and clay. Yes, we do not know what that means. And Daniel gave the king a Christian point of view of what the statue meant. Here we have, based on a secular mind. Remember, the king was not a believer. He was an unbeliever. When a secular man will look at things one way and be like, you know what? And if you look at what happens, he translates to this. The feet were made of iron and clay, which meant that there was the most brittle part of the statue. What am I going to do? Because I don't want to be the reason why this whole thing falls apart. So he knows it's inevitable. The dream said that somehow, some way, the kingdoms are going to be destroyed. So what does he do? Makes an image, brings all the leaders of the nations in. So he knows there's Christianity, there's Judaism, there's all these different religions out there. Christianity, not as we know it today, but before Christ, was big, of course. But at the end, but there were other religions, pagan religions during that time, idolatry and goddesses and gods and all kinds of stuff. So what does he do? He brings everybody in. He said, you know what? We are going to get everybody on one page. We're going to bring everybody in. We get everybody in here. We can get him to praise his one image, which we don't know what it is, made of gold. And if we unite all the worlds into all the nations into one religion, the feet are no longer going to be brittle. Because I am making everyone praise this one God, or this one statue, one religion. I'm making them all praise worship one God, which is the God that I made, or whatever statue that was. Therefore, the feet are not going to be brittle. Because the nations under me, remember, he's the gold part of the statue. As you go down, it goes to, different metals and iron and stuff. So, I'm going to make sure that what I leave behind, it is a stable legacy. It is a strong statue. King Nebuchadnezzar was not paying attention to the rock that's going to destroy him, which is what God was. He was paying attention to the brittle feet. He was going to want to make a kingdom that was so strong that it didn't matter how big the rock was. It would not be destroyed. This is the beginning of something that we're very, very familiar with right now. King Nebuchadnezzar, during this time, wanted to make a one world religion. That's what he wanted to do. One world, one nation, one religion, so strong, not divided. Because he knew that there was division amongst the people, right? The rocks will come and destroy him. This is the beginning. Again, this right here, this is not God's agenda. This is the enemy's agenda. He was probably the first one to say we need a one world religion, which we're dealing with right now. So, this is what's happening at that time. The king's trying to make everyone be on the same page. And these guys are straight up like, you know what? No, this is not happening. So, they're getting into his plan. They're planning on making one world religion. They're getting on the way. And they're not letting him do what he wants to do. Although the king was angry, he gave them a second chance. So, let's go back to that again. He says, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods and worship the gold image which I have set up?" Again, he tells them, guys, are you freaking kidding me? Like, I gave you guys all this. You're not going to worship my God here? I don't think he would have done that for somebody else. I think he would have probably burnt whoever came with. It would have been me or you, whoever. That would have been just straight into the furnace and be done. He knew. He saw the miracle of God in front of his life. He in front of his eyes. He saw the miracles. He saw when his dream would interpret. He even said, your God is bigger than mine. But yet he was not a believer. So he knew that whoever Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was praising, it was bigger than he could ever imagine. So I think it was out of respect. He told him, "Are you really sure you don't want to praise him?" Which they did. A second chance? Yep, he sure did. And who is the God who will deliver you from my hands? The last thing he told him. Why ask such a question? He knew the answer. Then they answered the king, "Oh, Nebuchadnezzar." Then they finally speak. "We have no need to answer you on this matter. If that is the case, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace. And he will deliver us from your hand, O God, O king. But if not, let it be known to you, O king, that we do not serve your gods, nor we will worship the gold image which you have set up." Could you have been so courageous during that time? Could you have stood up that they did to the most feared king of that time? Do you stand in front of adversity and say, "Do you want, do whatever you want to me and my family, but know that God of heaven, who I serve, will get me through this"? Do you have the courage to say this in the middle of the test? We need to have faith to say this out loud. We live in times of adversity where faith is going to be tested. People have been persecuted. People are being burnt alive, killed in front of their loved ones in his name. One of my, I don't want to say my favorite stories, but everybody knows who Emperor Nero was, no? Nero, he was he was like the fifth Caesar, could say, fourth Caesar, and he was a very, very young Caesar. He became Caesar at the age of 16. He came from a wealthy family. He was the nephew of the previous Caesar. So when he died, he was a person who actually became Caesar. He became Caesar at the age of 16 from a very, very wealthy family. He died at the age of 30. By the time he died, he murdered his mother. He murdered his second wife. And he also married his nephew. I'm sorry, his cousin. That's just the ones that are documented that are big. You don't murder your mom or your wife. You know, he's very notable. On top of that, he was noted for his hatred of Christians. One thing he was noted for, and I mention this only because, again, this is the spirit that's in our world right now. I mean, this hasn't gone away. This is still here. And he was known to just absolutely hate Christians. Despised us. And he was known to rob Christians, strap them to either crucify them. He crucified Christians all over town. He also known to, one of the most famous things he did was he strapped Christians to a plank of wood, stood them up like this, and he would put tree sap on their feet and just light up the feet and let it slowly burn their entire bodies. So start with the feet, and then slowly will burn their entire bodies. This is what we know today as Roman candles. He would line Christians up, one next to each other, strap them up to light up his driveway as you would come into his property, and then they were scattered all throughout his backyard, so that they would light up his evening events and galas. So as you're having dinner or whatever, there's Christians burnt alive in his property. This was very common during his reign. Nero was a disgusting, despicable human being. This is the time, and now there's poems and writings that have surfaced in Egypt, which I think is insane. Just learned this a few weeks ago. That are saying that what we think of Nero is not right. These poems give him references that he was a good man, but he was a man he was like a god amongst men. But the people loved him. Guess what Romans did? Christians did. This is the spirit that's here right now. This is back during Roman times. And you have an idea right now, we have Christianity is spreading. And we're very blessed to live in the United States, because the United States, we can praise and feel. I can be at my house right now with my friends and family, watching everyone on Facebook who's watching. And I'm not afraid someone's going to come and knock my door down. You go to Iran. Iran has 1 million Christians in Iran right now. The majority of these used to be Muslims and now are Christians. Iran is probably, it's the same thing. You could be persecuted and killed for being a Christian. But there's actually churches now in Iran. Most of them are home churches. Most of them do it in secret. Most of them do it in their homes. And if you're known to be a Christian in Iran, it will not be good for you. But in secret, again, you could be persecuted, your family could be killed. But there's about 1 million Christians in Iran right now. I think probably one of the saddest ones is probably Afghanistan. Afghanistan, there's no real number, and the number we see is 500 to 8,000 Christians in the entire country of Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, you cannot be a citizen of Afghanistan if you're Christian. Like, you cannot be you cannot be a citizen, meaning that if you become a Christian, you are no longer a citizen of Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, there's really home churches, and no real churches. There's some that are sprawling right now, but it's not a lot of home churches. You cannot, if we're doing what we're doing right now, you have to do it in secret, very quietly. One of the church leaders of Afghanistan said, he said, if you want to do a home church at your house, if you want to praise God while you're at home, if you want to sing praises to God, do it quietly or don't do it at all. Because the neighbors here, you may get killed. 500 to 8,000 Christians. We don't know how many, because of how much persecution there is in Afghanistan. And you got China, which I think is probably, it's a success story. Years and years we heard about the secret churches of China, how they praise and how they have churches in caves and things like that. As of right now, there's places in China and actually in Beijing, there's over 1,000 churches in one of the communities. Right now in China, there's between 60 to 70 million Christians. It's incredible. 60, and this started, and I remember a year about the secret church in China back in the 90s. It was like, you will get killed. It was crazy. They were persecuting in China. But now there's 60 to 70 million Christians in China. There's still persecution. Don't tell me. I'm not telling you there's not. There's still people that have to worship in churches. In caves, in underground areas because they're afraid of getting killed. Just recently, a report came out in Beijing where there's about 1,000 churches. There were more than 1,000 crosses were removed from the churches over in town. Whether it's the government or people, whatever it may be, though, but one thing's for sure is when we woke up in the morning and all the crosses were taken off from people's buildings. So again, it's not, Nero was a long time ago. That same spirit lives on today. And here in the United States, we feel very safe because nobody's going to knock my door down. But my neighbors in those different countries are not going through the same thing. And I think the story of the furnace, I should start looking at it. This is the key of the story. It is not a story of persecution, because I don't think that they were persecuted at that point. Yes, they were not liked by a few people. But they stood up when nobody else did, and they knew for certain that they were going to be killed. They were not persecuted in the corners. I mean, that's a lot's happened, but them, they were not being persecuted. Well, they knew that said something. They knew if they were to stand up in the middle of all these people, they were going to be killed. And there's nothing they can do about it. Let's keep reading real quick. Then Nebuchadnezzar was full of fury, and the expression on his face changed towards Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who spoke and commanded that they heat the furnace 7 times more than it was usually heated. That's how upset he was. This is a man who just were told, these were his leaders. I think he was making an example out of them, if you think about it. 7 times more than it was usually heated. And he commanded certain mighty men of valor who were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and cast them into the burning fire furnace. And these men were bound in their coats, their trousers, their turbans, and their other garments, and were cast into the midst of the burning fire furnace. Therefore, because the king's commands was urgent, and the furnace exceedingly hot, the flame of the fire killed those men who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down, bound to the midst of the burning fire furnace. The fire was so hot that the men that threw them in got burnt alive. I think it's like going on top of like a volcano, right? Like you get close to a volcano, and like people see you have to wear a suit and all that because the heat is so intense. You get burnt alive. Imagine how it was. It's super incredible. These men were tied down, thrown in a hotter than normal oven. And then the king Nebuchadnezzar was astonished. And he rose and hasted and spoke, saying to his counselors, "Wait, did we not cast 3 men bound to the midst of the fire?" "Yes." Then they answered the king, "True, we definitely cast 3 men to the fire. The other couple of men died just by going in." "Look," he answered, "I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt. And the form of the 4th is like the Son of God." There were 4 men in the fire. I told you before, the king knew that they worshipped the real God. The one true God. He even recognized him in the fire. The form of the 4th is like the Son of God. How did he know what the Son of God looked like? You know what I mean? Like, you know what I think I know what the Son of God looks like? Because when he shows up, everyone takes notice. When he shows up in the middle of a storm, in the middle of a battle, everyone knows this is not normal. Was this God that did this? This is exactly what this was. He didn't know what God looked like. But when my God shows up, everyone takes notice. Exactly what happened then. There were 3, now there are 4. The Son of God has shown up. He came to protect them and set them free. Take note that God did not protect them in the furnace. God did not protect them in the furnace. What I mean by that is, even before they enter the furnace, his blood was covered. Actually, before this is was covering them as they entered the furnace. Before they entered the furnace, God was protecting them. What do we know this? Because the men that were throwing them into the fire got burnt before entering, just by getting close. These men were burnt alive. Where Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were thrown into the fire. And before they were thrown into the fire, they didn't burn to crisp. That's how we know that they were covered before they entered the furnace. Because the men throwing them in got burned and they didn't. He protected those men even before the test started. God protects us even before we start the test. He's there with us before the real test starts. It's like those men. They should have been burnt alive next to the guys that threw them in. But for some reason, God protected them even before the door was open. Even before they started, God was there with them. And they saw these men in whose bodies the fire had no power. And the hair of their head was not singed, nor were their garments affected. And the smell of fire was not on them. Again, it's not our job to worry about the consequences when we stand up for Him. We're nothing but messengers. We deliver the message, He worries about the rest. They stood up. I am not doing this. I only serve God, the real God, Christ. I may get burnt alive. He's got it under control. And before the door was open, they were covered with an invisible shield from God, and they did not get burnt one bit. He said not even one hair was actually taken. So you're about to be thrown into the furnace of tribulation. He covers you with His blood before you enter. When you're inside, He comes in, removes the ropes that are binding you. Now you can worship Him in the middle of the battle because your arms are free. Remember what happened to them? They didn't have the ropes when they were in there. They were walking around with God, with the Son of God, and in the furnace walking around. Were they just saying hi to each other? I don't think so. I think they were worshiping God. There's no other way. They were walking around the furnace with God. What are they doing in there? You know what I mean? They're like, oh, we're not getting burned. God, but they hugged Him. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Christ. Hug you, love you. Thank you for because we're not getting burned. In the middle of the fire, He takes the bindings off of us. He takes a rope off of us, the chains. And we have to have faith that we can worship Him in the middle of the fire. When you exit the furnace, you are unbound, not burnt. You don't even smell like smoke. Not one hair was burnt. He protected you before, during, and after the furnace. You have the faith that is required to go through your furnace. This man didn't know what the outcome was going to be. They should have burnt as soon as the door was open, but they weren't. Even after they survived, the king should have executed them for insubordination. So, they survived. Again, they come out of the furnace. I mean, they're done. They're not burned. They come out of the furnace. They go in front of the king. And the king should have really executed them. Like, you know what? You survived the furnace. Oh, no way. Like, put them to the corner and drag them and quarter them or whatever they're going to do. And I think that should have happened. To those men, it's not like they escaped into the forest. They escaped the furnace. And they come out into the public once again in front of the king. I would, if I was a king like King Nebuchadnezzar, I'd be like, this is just disrespect. You should have died in front of all my leaders, and you didn't die. You're getting killed. It's not what happened. That is not 100% not what happened. What happened actually was that Nebuchadnezzar spoke saying, blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Okay? Who sent His angel and delivered His servants who trusted in Him. And they frustrated the king's word. And he knows, like, they didn't let, what he wanted to happen didn't happen. And yielded their bodies, and they should not serve, not worship any God except their own God. Therefore, make a decree. Again, this is a brand new decree, a brand new commandment. Before he was like, everybody must worship this giant idol. Now he says, therefore, I make a decree that any people, nation, or language who speaks anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut into pieces, and their houses shall be made as sheep, because there's no other God who can deliver like this. Unbelievable. They should have been killed as soon as they came out of the furnace. God protected them before, God protected them during, and God protected them after. Not only protected them after, but these three men changed history, as we know. God was there. The king did exactly what he wanted to do when erected the statue. We're talking about the original statue of 90 feet. After what happened with three men, he united the nations. But no longer, he didn't unite the nations now under the statue. He united the nations under one religion, Christ. His kingdom was no longer made of clay and iron. In reality, what he said was, no one will worship anything but Jesus Christ. The only thing, the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego will be the only God that anyone will worship. And now he united his kingdom into one. God would be the glue that would hold his nation together. Three men changed the course of history. If it wasn't for these three men, who knows what would have happened to Christianity? In reality, this is what the king wanted to do. But they changed the plan. They changed the history. Because now an entire kingdom is no longer just like idolizing this one image. Now that they changed the mind of the king and his directions. Now, you know what? You have to one through God, not me, not the Chaldeans, not anybody else. Nobody else could have done this but one through God. I told you that I want to challenge you to think about this story differently. Change your perspective. This is not a fairy tale, a quick little Sunday school story that we're told as kids. This is a story of three men that had the courage to stand up to the most feared king, and through faith and God's power, they made history, and God's kingdom was able to continue. I believe that, I told we said last week that King's dream of this giant statue is not finished. That entire prophecy is still not fulfilled. And like I told you last week, this is still not fulfilled. The Antichrist will come to finish what the king couldn't do. The king's job was to do exactly what was to bring one world religion on. It didn't happen. The Antichrist will come to finish what the king couldn't do. To unite the world in one religion. He knows that the rock is coming toward him. He'll do whatever he can do to make sure when the rock comes, his kingdom is still standing. That's what the Antichrist is going to come do. At the end of time, the Antichrist comes. He's going to want to unite everyone together into a false religion so that when Christ comes and destroys them, you know what? We're more powerful than you are. That's not going to happen. The devil's going to come, the Antichrist is going to come do what the king could never do. And I tell you, we've got to stand strong. We've got to stand strong together in his word and know that he's the only true God. And don't let anyone deceive you. What is your furnace? Don't you know that he's in control? That even when you are outside of the furnace, inside of the furnace, or outside of the furnace, he's protecting you. God is in control. Don't let the enemy deceive you. Don't let the enemy tell you otherwise. It's okay if you cry. It's okay if you pray 7 times a day. Understand this. God is in control. From beginning to end. Have the courage to stand up. Have the courage to do the right thing. Have the courage to go forward, to go in front of your friends and tell them, God loves you. Have the courage to give your friends the right advice. Have the courage to stand up at work. Because you don't even know what the outcome is going to be. But do know that God will protect you before, He'll protect you during, he'll protect you after the test. Let's close in prayer, please. God, we pray, God, tonight that you're with us. That you help us go through everything that we have gone through. You will protect us through the furnace and the test, the trial, the tribulation that we are going through. We don't know what's tomorrow. Maybe today we're sitting at home right now, we're just having a good day, God, and we're not, we're not experiencing a big test. But for all we know, the test has already started. For all we know, the test is an hour from now. The test is tomorrow morning. But we need to believe that before the test started, you knew about it. You protected us. Before that door opens, we're thrown into the fire and thrown into the furnace, that you are there with us. Your blood is covering us and helping us to be fireproof. Your fireproofing blood is covering us, so that when we're thrown into the furnace, we don't get burnt. When we're in there, you're going to unbound us. You're going to take the ropes off of us. You're gonna all the restraints that are on us, you're going to take them off. And then our hands will be free to praise you. Our hands will be free to praise you in the middle of the furnace. And then when we come out, you will be victorious. Protect us before, protect us during, and protect us after. We need to believe that. Let that be our prayer every day. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 Thanks, everyone.
He needs to put it on the TV.
You have to put something on the TV for Juvia?
I texted it to you.
That's good stuff, man. So we're not another chimichurri?
Poppy, your phone's right there.
Someone's over.
Are we really putting something on? Oh my God. We're going to hear her sing. Okay. Introduce yourself.
Practice with instrumental this time.
You're going to start a new Facebook account.
Make an announcement. You want to do it? No.
I'll make a new Facebook page, guys. So add me.
No. You do it. You do it.
Okay.
Is it not working?
What do you guys want to do?
Okay. Well,
Okay. Almost.
While we're waiting. I am so proud of my dad for his comments. I thank God every day for my daddy and how awesome he is. Like, literally, I want to go to every, I don't know, to the rooftops and be like, hey, Dad's awesome, Love you so much.
Okay. There you go, baby.
All right.
You're